¿Tienes 50 años o más? Esta noticia es para ti. Los CDC recomiendan que te vacunes contra la neumonía neumocócica. Aunque estés saludable, tu edad te pone en riesgo. Las personas de 50 o más tienen más de 6 veces más probabilidades de ser hospitalizadas por la neumonía neumocócica que los adultos de 18 a 49. Una sola vacuna puede ayudar a protegerte. Aprende más y programa en baxassist.com/ES. Patrocinado por Pfizer.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. This time, we're going to be looking at adjustable rings.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, they're everywhere these days, you know?
I've noticed that. I've been seeing them more and more, actually. What's the deal with them?
Well, that's what we're going to be diving into today. To do that, we're going to be taking a look at this promotional text from a company called Rich. Now, full disclosure, it is a promotional piece.
Okay, sure.
But, you know, even though it's promotional, it still has some really great information on just why adjustable rings are becoming so popular.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
So I guess the first thing we should really do is define exactly what an adjustable ring is, right?
Yeah, I guess you're right. I mean, I think I know, but for our listeners, lay it on us.
Well, just as the name suggests, it's a ring that can adjust to fit different finger sizes.
Okay.
Yeah. And they're also sometimes called open rings or no-size rings.
I see. Makes sense.
And the reason they can adjust is because they have this, like, open or flexible band, which really makes them perfect for, like, gift giving.
Yeah, especially if you're not sure about somebody's ring size.
Exactly. Or if you tend to, like, wear your rings on different fingers.
Oh, yeah.
Depending on, you know, your outfit or your mood that day.
Totally.
So, you know, the Rich text talks a lot about how adaptable adjustable rings are.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Not just in sizing, but also in style.
Right. They can be casual or more formal.
Yeah. And it's really interesting because they actually highlight their use of stainless steel, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, that's a good choice, I think, you know, for something that's supposed to be worn every day.
Right, exactly.
It's got to be durable, but it still looks good, too.
Yeah, and they give some examples of how you can style them, which I thought was nice.
Oh, cool. What kind of stuff do they suggest?
Well, you know, like pairing them with more minimalist jewelry for kind of like a relaxed everyday vibe.
Yeah, I could see that.
Or you could go for like a more elaborate design for a special occasion.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. But what I thought was really interesting, they suggest this idea of ring stacking.
Ring stacking?
Yeah. Have you heard of that?
I feel like I have.
Okay, so just to kind of define that, that's basically wearing multiple rings on one finger or across several fingers.
Okay, I've definitely seen that.
Yeah, and it creates this really, like, layered and unique look.
Cool. Yeah.
And I just thought it was really cool how Rich brings that up because it really shows, like, how versatile adjustable rings can be.
Oh, totally. You know, people are really into expressing themselves these days through their style.
That's so true.
And you know, adjustable rings, they just lend themselves so well to that kind of self-expression.
Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, another thing that I thought was really interesting in the text is they talk about the comfort aspect of adjustable rings.
Okay, interesting. I hadn't really thought about that.
Yeah, I mean, you've got that open design, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So it minimizes the pressure on your finger.
Oh, that's nice.
Which makes them, you know, ideal for wearing all day long.
Yeah, and I imagine that makes a big difference if you have issues with rings fitting properly, being too tight.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense. You know, it's interesting how something so seemingly small can actually have such a big impact on the comfort.
Right, yeah.
It really speaks to, like, a good design.
Yeah.
You know,
totally.
Thinking about what the wearer actually needs.
It seems like they really have thought of everything.
It does.
But, you know, we've talked about how stylish they are.
Right.
We've talked about how comfortable they are.
Yeah.
But what about caring for them?
Oh, that's a good point, yeah.
Like, how do we make these rings last?
I was just thinking that, actually.
Well, good news.
Okay, good.
Rich actually gives us some tips on that, too.
Oh, perfect. Lay it on us.
So they do say, you know, even though adjustable rings are flexible, it's best to avoid, like, constantly bending the band.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, too much bending can eventually weaken the structure, like anything, you know?
Right. You don't want to overdo it.
Exactly. So basically just be mindful.
Exactly. And then in terms of cleaning, they actually suggest something really simple.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What is it?
Just using a soft cloth and some soapy water.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which is a good practice for, like, most jewelry anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
And then for storage, they recommend using either, like, individual pouches or a jewelry box with separate compartments.
Oh, okay.
just to prevent them from getting scratched and, keep everything nice and organized.
Yeah, that makes sense. Good tips.
Yeah, I thought those were really helpful.
I'm taking notes.
So before we move on, I just wanted to touch on some of the specific styles that Hederick highlights in their material.
Okay, yeah. I'm curious what kind of stuff they're showcasing.
Well, as we talked about, they're big on using stainless steel for its durability and elegance.
Right.
And one of the rings they showcase is this minimalist open ring, which is just, very simple and modern looking.
Okay.
And then they also have an adjustable ring with a floral design.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, which just adds like a little bit of femininity and a touch of delicacy.
Oh, I love that. So they've got options for different tastes.
Exactly. But it really highlights just how diverse adjustable rings can be.
Absolutely. It's interesting because we've been talking about the practical side of things.
Yeah.
But they're also just really fashionable right now.
They are.
So what do you think is driving their popularity? Like, why are people so into them?
That's a great question. I think it's because they're so practical and they're on trend.
Yeah, that's true.
They solve an actual problem.
Totally.
But they're also stylish.
Yeah, it's like the perfect combination.
It is. But, it makes me think about, are adjustable rings maybe a sign of something bigger?
What do you mean?
Like, are they changing the way we think about and wear jewelry?
Ooh, that's a great question. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know either, but it's definitely something to think about.
It is. And luckily, we have more time to dive into that question in the next part of our deep dive. Yes, we do. We're going to be exploring the cultural impact of adjustable rings, their connection to sustainability, and what the future might hold for this trend.
Can't wait.
And we're back for part 2 of our deep dive on adjustable rings. We were talking about how popular they are right now.
Yeah.
And it makes me think, maybe it's not just about the rings themselves.
What do you mean?
Well, maybe it says something about, what people are looking for in general these days.
Oh, interesting. You're thinking bigger picture stuff.
Exactly. Like this whole idea of versatility that we've been talking about.
Right. Being able to wear a ring on different fingers, dress it up or down.
Yeah. Like it's not just about the jewelry, It's like a whole mindset.
Totally. You see it everywhere, like with fashion. People want clothes they can wear in different ways for different occasions.
It's like get more use out of less stuff.
Exactly. And adjustable rings kind of fit into that, right?
Totally. It's like having a whole jewelry collection in just one ring.
Ooh, I like that.
And, you brought up ring stacking earlier.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to go back to that for a second.
Sure. What about it?
Because, it sounds cool, but, how do you actually do it?
Oh, right. Yeah, you don't just want to, throw a bunch of rings on your fingers.
Exactly.
There's got to be some thought behind it.
So, what are the basics?
Okay, so first you got to think about the vibe you're going for.
Yeah.
Do you want it to be bohemian, minimalist, edgy? What are you feeling?
Right, and then you got to choose rings that, go together, right?
Yeah, think about the metals, gemstones, the style, and mixing different textures and widths can look really cool.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, it's all about playing around and seeing what works for you.
It's about personalizing it.
Exactly.
And that's what I think is so cool about adjustable rings. It's not just about following trends.
It's about creating your own style.
Exactly. And that brings us to another interesting aspect. Sustainability.
Ooh, right. We touched on that earlier.
We did. And I think it's worth digging into a bit more. Because, with adjustable rings, you're basically getting multiple rings in one.
Right, so you don't need to buy as much.
Exactly. So it's like you're being more mindful about what you buy.
Which is good for the environment.
Exactly. But what about the rings themselves? How are they made?
No, that's a good point.
Are there ways to make them more sustainable?
Well, there's this growing trend of using recycled metals.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so you're not mining new resources. And then with gemstones, people are getting more aware of ethical sourcing.
Oh, right. Like where they come from, how they're mined?
Yeah, exactly. It's about the whole process being responsible.
Right, the whole supply chain. So it's not just about the design of the ring, but also the ethics behind it.
Exactly. And I think that's something people really care about these days.
It's about making conscious choices.
Exactly.
So we've talked about practicality, style, sustainability, but, rings often have a deeper meaning, right?
Like symbolic meaning.
Yeah, like engagement rings, wedding bands, family heirlooms.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of tradition and emotion tied to rings.
Exactly. But what about adjustable rings? Do they have that same kind of symbolism?
That's interesting. I hadn't really thought about that before.
Me neither. But, adjustable rings are all about change, about adapting.
That's true. They're not fixed.
Right. So maybe they symbolize something different.
Like what?
Well, maybe growth, you
Yeah.
know, adaptability, the fact that things change and evolve.
Ooh, that's a really cool way to look at it.
Right. It's like they're not just pieces of jewelry. They're like little reminders.
Reminders to embrace change. I love that.
Me too. Okay, before we wrap up this part, I just wanted to address one potential concern.
Okay, what is it?
Some people might worry that because you can adjust them, they're not as durable as traditional rings.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. You're bending the metal. Right.
Right. But, you know, Hederick does say that their rings are made to last, and they emphasize using strong materials like that stainless steel we talked about.
Right. And they gave those tips for taking care of them, too.
Exactly. And, you know, even traditional rings can be resized, so it's not like they never get manipulated.
That's true.
So it's more about, like, understanding that adjustable rings have their limits and treating them with care.
Makes sense. Just like any piece of jewelry, really.
Exactly. So we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have. We've gone from practical stuff to, like, deep philosophical meaning.
I know. But you know what? There's still more to talk about.
There is?
Yeah. In the final part of our deep dive, we're going to be looking at the future of adjustable rings.
Ooh, that sounds fun.
It is. We're going to be talking about technology, innovation, all that cool stuff.
Can't wait.
Welcome back to the show. You know, we've talked about how practical and stylish adjustable rings are.
Yeah.
And how they kind of reflect these bigger trends we're seeing in, like, society and fashion.
Right. Like wanting things that are versatile, sustainable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, you know, thinking about the future, what do you think will happen with adjustable rings?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, you know, we've talked about personalization,
Yeah.
and I think that's only going to get bigger.
What do you mean?
Like, imagine being able to not only adjust the size of the ring,
Yeah.
but also choose, like, the materials, the design.
Oh, wow.
Maybe even add, like, an engraving or something.
Like, make it totally unique.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That would be so cool.
Right. And with technology these days, like 3D printing and stuff, that kind of customization could become, like, really common.
Wow. So it wouldn't be just buying a ring off the shelf?
No, it would be more like co-creating it.
Oh, that's interesting.
Right. You'd be like part designer.
Wow. That would really change things.
Totally. It would challenge jewelry makers to think differently, too.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, maybe instead of just selling finished pieces, they'd offer more, like, design services.
Oh, like jewelry at ateliers or something?
Yeah, where you could go and work with an artist to create your perfect ring.
I love that. And you know what else we talked about?
What?
Technology. Oh, yeah. Like smart rings.
Right. Do you think that will become a thing?
I think it's totally possible.
Imagine, like, an adjustable ring that could track your fitness.
Or, like, make payments.
Oh, yeah.
The possibilities are kind of crazy.
It would be like the ultimate wearable tech.
Totally. But, you know, we got to remember all that stuff we discussed about sustainability.
Right, being ethical.
Exactly. People are going to want to know where the materials come from.
Yeah, and how the rings are made.
Right. It's not just about being cool and high tech.
It's about being responsible, too.
Yeah, making sure the whole process is ethical and sustainable.
So do you think jewelry companies are ready for that?
I think they're going to have to be.
You're right.
Consumers are demanding more transparency these days.
Yeah, they want to know what's behind the products they're buying.
Exactly. And honestly, I think it's a good thing.
Me too.
It's pushing the industry to do better.
And it gives us, as consumers, more power to make informed choices.
Totally. So thinking back on everything we've discussed, it seems like adjustable rings are more than just a trend.
I agree.
They're like a symbol of how things are changing.
In fashion, in technology, and how we think about the world.
Yeah, they're adaptable, personal, and hopefully more sustainable.
And maybe, just maybe, they're a sign of even bigger changes to come.
Who knows? But it's definitely exciting to think about.
It is. Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive on adjustable rings.
Oh, already?
Yeah. Time flies when you're having fun.
It does. I feel like I've learned so much.
Me too. I hope our listeners feel the same way.
Yeah, I hope they're inspired to go out and, like, try some adjustable rings for themselves.
Yes. And to think about, you know, what those rings might represent.
Right. All those ideas we've been talking about.
Exactly. So thanks for joining us on this journey.
Thanks for having me.
And until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep into the things that spark your curiosity.
Bye, everyone.
See you later.
¿Tienes 50 años o más? Esta noticia es para ti. Los CDC recomiendan que te vacunes contra la neumonía neumocócica. Aunque estés saludable, tu edad te pone en riesgo. Las personas de 50 o más tienen más de 6 veces más probabilidades de ser hospitalizadas por la neumonía neumocócica que los adultos de 18 a 49. Una sola vacuna puede ayudar a protegerte. Aprende más y programa en baxassist.com/ES. Patrocinado por Pfizer.